Ladies and gentlemen, by way of introduction, this is a film about trickery and fraud, about lies.
You don't talk about Napoleon or Julius Caesar. You're talking about Elmire.
Elmire?
Elmire?
Who is Elmire? That question has yet to be answered with any real precision.
Can I kiss you too? Anybody wants to eat?
In the world of the jet-setters among us beautiful people, everybody knows Elmire. But Elmire what?
He has about 60 times the same name.
Dihori?
He's called his name Ori, Uri, Bori, Suri, Kori, Bari, Dori, all the...
Pourquoi pas?
With U-R-Y, 60 names.
His real name was Elmire Ferenc Huffman.
Then 60 personalities, as much lies and as much real.
Well, sounds very Jesuitic.
Yes, his world is a world of make-believe.
I'm not an actor.
Not an actor? Elmire?
I'm not an actor. I am not a professional actor.
He's a leading actor in this movie. His profession, it's true, is painting fakes. Among all fakers, Elmire is number 2.
Once, I saw a man from Ibiza writing a book on fake who came to see me to Paris. He said, I heard you are the first man who bought an Elmire.
That man's name was...
Clifford Irving.
The important distinction to make when you're talking about the genuine quality of a painting is not so much whether it's a real painting or a fake. It's whether it's a good fake or a bad fake.
The art of illusion or magic is often just pigeonholed into describing magic shows or magicians. From Houdini, Siegfried and Roy, David Blaine, and Chris Angel, these individuals have provided us with mind-bending moments that make us forget logic. However, behind every trick is a secret, a way the illusion is pulled off. Film directors are the same way, and Orson Welles is no different. As a matter of fact, he outright owns it. In 1976, Welles would release a video essay / docudrama called F for Fake. In this film, Welles would look at notorious art forger Elmire Diori, famed biographer Clifford Irving, who wrote a biography on Diori called Fake and was later shamed for writing a hoax biography on Howard Hughes, and Welles's companion at the time, the beautiful Oja Kodar. Welles, as well as being a performer, director, and writer, was a magician. In this interview from 1974, he talks about being a magician and how that segued into him getting into cold readings. As he explains how this works, he exposes the hoax. This shows how Welles could be the ultimate charlatan, speaking on something notorious, misleading, and having people laugh with him all along the way.
I once, I'm a magician, and I got interested in mind reading and fortune-telling, fake fortune-telling, and I got to know a lot of old fakes who had retired as millionaires, and they told me their secrets, how you do it. There are things that are called cold readings.
Oh, what's that?
A cold reading is you warm up the sucker by telling him things that he says, how could he ever know that, you see? You say, between the ages of 13 and 15, you had a great change came in your life. But that happens in everybody's life. But he says, he came in and told me things I already see. You've got a scar on your knee. Everybody fell down and has a scar on their knee. Those are cold readings, you see?
I have a scar on my knee.
Sure
How
you
did
do.
you know that?
Yeah, you see? Just something bigger than myself.
Yeah.
Well, now, the point about this is that after they're warmed up, they're amazed by this knee bit and the rest of it. They start telling you Because you just say, is it, and you see from their face it is or it isn't, and then you tell it back and they say, how did he do it, you see? So I was bored. I was playing in Kansas City with Catherine Cornell one time, and we didn't have any matinee on Wednesday, so I hired a room and put Dr. Swami fortune teller, you know, $2 readings, and for the whole day they came in, and each one, because I felt guilty about it at the end, I said, I'm not going to take your money, you know, because I couldn't have really taken. For a whole day I was a fortune teller, faking. But then there began to happen to me the thing that does happen to fortune tellers, and which is the occupational disease of fraudulent fortune tellers, and they have a name for it. It's called becoming a shut-eye. And a shut-eye in the argot of these crooks is the fellow who begins to believe himself. You see, and you make these wild guesses. One of them explained to me, he says, supposing you're a night clerk in a hotel, and when you get the job, first of all, a fellow comes in, wants a single room, you look at how good his luggage is, how good are his shoes, and you tell him there's a room in the court, there's no room, or yes, sir, depending on various pieces of evidence. He says, you've been a night clerk long enough, you glance and you tell him. You've been a night clerk a little longer and you don't have to look. You've seen it, but the computer in here has made all of those deductions without your being conscious of it. So the mind reader gets so that he, without thinking, does that, and then they say it's true. And a woman came in to me at the end of my career as a fraudulent fortune teller in a bright print dress, and sat down looking perfectly all right, and I said, you've lost your husband last week. And she burst into tears. She had. And then I quit.
That was terrible.
Yes, it's one of those things. Undoubtedly, it's not psychic. Undoubtedly, there was evidence of a tragedy. There was all kinds of things that went into the computer and got processed without me crookedly thinking what I'm going to say to her. And that's how it works, I think.
That's fascinating. And you get sort of 5 spooky premonitions a year.
Like that, and then, you know, yes, I do. And I'm sure they're all spooky like that in some kind of funny way. I suppose I looked at Una and said, you know, she's just, Una is exactly the girl that would be happy with Charlie, I suppose. And instead of thinking, maybe you'll meet him, what did I lose? I said, you're going to marry him. And she did.
From that clip, we learn that Wells does have a love of magic. You can hear it in his voice. That love sets the stage for this film. In the first scene, he performs a series of tricks for a young child. We hear Wells fully admit it's a hoax, but he keeps up the hoax to entertain, and all the while, he beautifully and eloquently explains what is going on to keep us, the audience, a part of the trick. At the end of this scene, we hear Wells make a promise that for the next hour, everything we hear is really true and based on solid facts.
For my next experiment, ladies and gentlemen, I would appreciate the loan of any small personal object from your pocket. A key, a box of matches, a coin. Key it is. Good, sir. Hold it up 10 feet over your head and watch out for the slightest hint of hanky-panky. And behold, before our very eyes, a transformation. We've changed your key into a coin. What happened to the key? It's been returned to you. Look closely, sir. You'll find the key back in your pocket. May we see it, please?
After your old tricks, I see.
Why not? I'm a charlatan. What's that, sir? Did I used to be a magician? Sir, I'm still working on it. As for the key, it was not symbolic of anything. This isn't that kind of movie. You'll find the coin now in your pocket, sir. Keep your eyes on that coin, sir, while it's returned to you as your key. Shall we return you to your mother? Is this your mother? No, of course not. Open your mouth wide, and we'll return you your money. By the way, have you ever heard of Robert Houdin? Speaking of magicians, I mean. No, of course not. But of course you do know my partner, Francois Reichenbach.
Hello.
Houdin was the greatest magician who ever lived. And do you know what he said? magician, he said, is just an actor.
Well, good luck to you.
Just an actor, playing the part of a magician.
Very nice.
And she's fabulously rich, too. It's a good story about it.
Do you want to tell it?
We'll come to that one later. Now it's time for an introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, by way of introduction, this is a film about trickery and fraud, about lies. Tell it by the fireside or in a marketplace or in a movie. Almost any story is almost certainly some kind of lie. But not this time. No, this is a promise. During the next hour, everything you'll hear from us is really true and based on solid facts.
Throughout this film, Welles presents the idea of illusions and hoaxes being misunderstood. That is what makes this docudrama so intriguing. None of us like to be misled. However, how many times have we bought knockoff designer clothing or accessories, off-brand food items, famous pieces of art reproduced into a poster such as Starry Night, the Mona Lisa, or any of Grant Wood's pieces? Wouldn't that make us a part of the hoax and not the victim of it? These are the questions this film presents to us. In our final clip, Welles has just told the story regarding Godard, her grandfather, and her grandfather forging Picasso paintings. This is the final scene of the film, where Welles shows us, the viewer, that not everything is what it seems, and that quote that we mentioned previously, that for the next hour, that everything presented is really true and based on solid facts.
Time for a confession?
Time to go.
Good night, Oya. That's her real name, you know? Oya. Oya Kodar. I don't think that young gentleman's a trombone player, but Oya's grandfather was Hungarian. Did he paint any pictures?
Never in his life.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did use Oya's grandfather to lend verisimilitude to the reenactment of this story, but is reenactment really the word? What I mean is, with a story this hard to believe, reenactment isn't easy. Right, Francois? At the very beginning of all this, I did make you a promise. Remember? I did promise that for 1 hour, I'd tell you only the truth. That hour, ladies and gentlemen, is over. For the past 17 minutes, I've been lying my head off. The truth, and please forgive us for it, is that we've been forging an art story. As a charlatan, of course, my job was to try to make it real. Not that reality has anything to do with it. Reality? It's the toothbrush waiting at home for you in its glass. A bus ticket, a paycheck, and the grave. In the right mood, perhaps Elmire has just as few regrets as I have to have been a charlatan. But we're not so proud, either of us, as to lay any superior claim to being very much worse than the rest of you. No, what we professional liars hope to serve is truth. I'm afraid the pompous word for that is art. Picasso himself said it. Art, he said, is a lie. A lie that makes us realize the truth. Oya's grandfather, floating here in the air, has no comment, which isn't surprising because he never existed. To the memory of that great man who will never cease to exist, I offer my apologies. And wish you all, true and false, a very pleasant good evening.
When this film was released, it was met with widespread criticism. Wells had released a 9-minute trailer that only featured scenes that were not even in the film. When critics and moviegoers went to see the release, this led to them not understanding what the film is about and being confused about what Wells was even trying to convey. Those feelings could be the ultimate story of Wells's career. A man, a director, a magician, a performer that was far ahead of his time. His films were not heralded then for the most part, but now they are a part of the greatest ever films discussion. Touch of Evil, Citizen Kane, Magnificent Ambersons. The list can go on and on. His influence is felt through decades of cinema. And he is my all-time favorite director. His films were made by a performer and magician, and in my opinion, that is why they captivate and awe, even today. I hope you join me next week when, in honor of Major League Baseball season starting, we will look at the 1989 film starring Charlie Sheen, Corbin Burnson, and Wesley Snipes, Major League. To conclude this month-long tribute to Orson Welles, we will feature a scene from F for Fake, where he compares art to human life, with the backdrop of Chartres Cathedral in France. It rises, it falls, and it is forgotten. Thankfully for us, Welles, and his masterpieces he left us, never will be.
A celebration to God's glory and to the dignity of man. Well, all that's left, most artists seem to feel these days, is man. Naked. Poor, forked radish. There aren't any celebrations. Ours, the scientists keep telling us, is a universe which is disposable. You know, it might be just this one anonymous glory of all things. This rich stone forest, this epic chant, this gaiety, this grand choiring shout of affirmation, which we choose when all our cities are dust, to stand intact, to mark where we have been, to testify to what we had it in us to accomplish. Our works in stone, in paint, in print are spared, some of them for a few decades or a millennium or two, but everything must finally fall in war or wear away into the ultimate and universal ash. The triumphs and the frauds, the treasures and the fakes, a fact of life. We're going to die. Be of good heart. Cry the dead artists out of the living past. Our songs will all be silenced. But what of it? Go on singing. Maybe a man's name doesn't matter.